Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Civivi McKenna. This is an Elijah Isham collaboration, as you can tell by the, I think, pretty darn cool little maker's mark on there. I like his new little maker's mark, and then it looks pretty awesome. It's what his face looks like. It's kind of neat. Yeah, this is by far the smallest of the three that they have done. I will bring out the other two here in a moment. It is a less than 3-inch blade, little lightweight, very lightweight front flipper, which I love me some front flippers, and man, this is a darn good one. We'll talk a lot more about that here in a moment. Very, very cool design. I would call it unique, but it says Isham on it, so everything he does is unique. That kind of goes without saying, but it's still an extremely practical look. He's been definitely going that way a lot more lately. And I do really like that. Especially these Civivi collaborations are all three very practical, usable knives, but still have that distinctive Isham look. Has the what I call the eye hole in it. The typical, all of his blades have a hole of some sort. It is not usable in this one at all, though. It's barely usable in the other two. On this one, it is completely not usable. There's no way your finger's going to get in there. But the front flipper works just fine, as you can see from that. For your $68, you're getting D2 steel, G10 liner lock, steel bearings with stainless steel bearings with a ceramic detent ball, and their usual, kind of semi-deep carry in this because he's still a little bit sticking out, but their usual loop over deep carry clip, and G10 backspacer. And these stainless steel liners are not in a color; they are gray, which I know people will rejoice over that. They may also rejoice over the fact that there is no carbon fiber laminate on the G10. It's just sculpted G10. Not only does it make the knife a little bit cheaper, but some people really hate the carbon fiber laminate. It doesn't bother me, and especially I think Civivi does a pretty good job with it. I think it actually looks pretty good, so I'm not going to complain too much about their carbon fiber. But this one doesn't have it, and a lot of people will really, really like that. Very minimal branding, as you'd expect. Civivi on the pivot. The Isham maker's mark, and very tiny, there's a little tiny D2 mark there. I don't know if you can even see it. Yeah, I think you can. Other than that, it's a pretty clean design. Very clean, sleek, future-y looking design without being too insane. I really do like the look and design of this knife a whole lot. Now, let's do some specs and some size comparisons. You have an overall length of 6 3/4 inches. You have a blade length of 2.9 inches. Blade thickness, just 0.10 inches. Very thin blade stock on this. Handle thickness of 0.40 inches. And as I think I mentioned, 1.77 ounces. It is extremely light. Do some size comparisons. This is not a large knife, as you will see in a mere moment. Put up against your Paramilitary 2. You can see it absolutely dwarfs it. And our other half of the Spyderco sandwich, the Para 3. It's even smaller than a Para 3. It is a pretty small little knife. Now let's bring out the other two of this trio. Try to look at the camera here, make sure I've got everything right. We have the Civivi Anthropos and the Civivi Plethoros, which are both, obviously, you see, quite a bit larger. But this is the Civivi Isham trio. I'm recording this and probably posting it on a Monday. About Friday, I'll do a full, summary of the differences between all these, because you guys ask a lot of questions about them. It's Civivi. Everybody asks a lot of questions about Civivis, and it's Elijah Isham. So, two things that are very hot right now. So, on Friday, I will do a separate video with all three of these. Talk more about them. But let's get on to talk more about this one in particular. The blade on this thing is pretty darn good. I've been following all the steel tests that Kurt and LTK have been doing, and he's been putting up the videos and stuff. Civivi does a really good job with their D2, and I assume this one will be no exception. As I said, very thin blade stock, just 0.10 inches, and very thin behind the edge, as you'd expect from Civivi. This is pretty normal for them nowadays. 14 thousandths behind the edge. And very sharp and good out of the box. It's perfectly fine. No complaints there. I have put it through a little bit of cardboard abuse today, and it's been it's been perfectly fine. It's a great little knife. It's a very good slicer. It is excellent, especially for a blade this small. It's freaking great. You have this kind of sheep's footy shape to it. And I like the look of it with the little eye hole. And it doesn't get in the way of any of your cutting path or anything really, because you'd hit this anyway. So you'd hit the handle anyway. So it doesn't matter really that that's there. If you're going to make a hole just for making a hole's sake, it's a good place to put it on this particular knife. But very, very good blade on this. Very happy with it. The tip even isn't like super spindly. I was expecting the tip to be super spindly. It really isn't. It's completely fine. Now, as far as the ergonomics go, it's not quite as perfect when it comes to this. It is a small knife, yes. I can get all 4 fingers on it, though. That's perfectly fine. My problems with it ergonomically are this pocket clip. I think it just sticks up a bit too much. I wouldn't call it a hot spot because this handle is so thin that your palm's not really touching it much anyway. But you can definitely feel it's there all the time. There's no like escaping the fact that there's a pocket clip touching your hand. You know, the ramp isn't particularly, you know, it's a little high, but it's that doesn't really bother me. Everything's nicely chamfered and stuff. There's no like sharp edges or anything. But yeah, you definitely know it's there for absolutely sure. And when in normal use, I didn't really notice this. But no, so this is a very minor nitpick. But if you do squeeze really hard on it, definitely I feel the end of the handle here, the butt of the handle definitely digs in a little bit. But I said when I was actually using it, I didn't really notice that. And actually using it, I don't notice the pocket clip that much either. But I just have to, you know, you got to be a knife reviewer guy and complain about it. But yeah, the ergonomics aren't outstanding. There's no real room to choke up on it, which you wouldn't expect on a knife this small and this thin. But yeah, that's a little. They're minor ergonomic complaints. I still found it pleasurable to use. But keep that in mind. There is that. Now, as far as the carry goes on this thing, I mean, it weighs nothing at all. Get the pocket the right way here. Had it all wadded up. And the Yield Wranglers slides in and out very easily. And as you can see, just a little bit sticking out. And the colors this thing comes in, it's not gonna, you know, not gonna matter one way or the other either way. They're both, you know, they're all pretty neutral colors. You just have the black pocket clip sticking out, and it's super thin, very, very thin. I mean, you do not know this thing is in your pocket. This is one of these knives that's gonna go through the wash someday, probably. You know, you have the front flipper, so there's no flipper tab sticking out. It's a pleasure to carry. You really hardly even know that it's there at all. It's a great carry. Now, as far as the action goes, we're going to talk about this a lot. So, front flipper design. I do love me some front flippers. And Civivi, pretty damn good with detents. And this is the first front flipper I'm familiar with that they made. And they nailed it. The detent on this thing for a front flipper is out freaking standing. And I will say, I did take this apart. I did lube it up because I wanted to take it apart and verify what was inside of it and all that. The action is just ridiculous. It's like, it's not drop shut, but you just have to give it a little, tiniest little bit of wrist flick and it snaps right shut. And it's a very lightweight blade. I mean, it's less than 3 inches and super thin, so you wouldn't expect it to just fall shut. But yeah, it's really good. How good is it? I'm going to bring out some more front flippers here. So we have the Boost Blade Smoke, which I just hit my thumb on. The Boost Blade Smoke, which is known to have very good action. Another front flipper that's also pretty budget. Actually, I think even a little bit expensive, or about the same price as the McKenna. This is the Real Steel Metamorph. This is the G5 Mark II. And I even happen to have here what is widely regarded as the Mac Daddy of them all, which I'm having a hard time opening there. There we go. I caught it wrong. The Gareth Bull Chamois. This is the small one. Where would I put this in the quality of action? You know, the Boost is well regarded as being one of the best. The Chamois is regarded as being the best. The Boost is definitely easier to open than the Chamois. The Chamois, it's kind of a thing you got to get used to. I hadn't opened it in a few days, and as you can see, it took me a second the first try. yes, the Shrimwari drops smoother than all of them, absolutely, for sure. But as far as just opening pleasure, yeah, this is just as good as the Smoke or the Metamorph. And I call the Metamorph and the Smoke pretty even. The Metamorph runs on roller bearings, so it is pretty, it's very drop shutty and super duper smooth. So is the Smoke, but yeah, that's saying a lot. The Smoke's like, what, 220? And I can't say that action on the 220 Smoke is better than the Civivi. That's saying a lot. So I'm spending a lot more time on that action category than I normally do. But I think that's going to be this thing's the reason why that a lot of people are going to want them. Are going to want one of these, because it is just it's 68 bucks. It's not horribly expensive. It's small. It's just a fun little fidget toy. It is just a blast. Really, really liking it. It's just a fun little, and it's small enough you could even carry it as a secondary and just have a little fidget toy to play with in your car, because the front flippers are so much fun to play with. And this one is super easy. Even amongst all the other ones that I had out here, amongst all of them, this is the easiest front flipper I've ever had. It's super easy to learn. It's not going to be a trick. I used to always say, if you're going to buy one front flipper, if you're curious, get a G5 Metamorph. And I still say that. They're great too. But this, I think, is even just that little bit easier to open. This is a little more drop shutty because it's on roller bearings and it's a bigger knife. But if you want a front flipper trainer, I don't think you can go wrong with one of these. And it's a useful blade shape. The ergonomics are okay. They're not amazing, but they're good enough. Yeah, I really, really like this. 68 bucks. I'm going to have a hard time not recommending it to people. If they say, I want my first front flipper, I'm going to say this or the G5. I'm not going to do a comparison review with them because, as you can see, the G5 is just so much bigger. It doesn't really make any sense. But, yeah, one of those two. If you want a big front flipper for your first one, get the G5. If you want something smaller, get one of these. Great knife. Very, very happy with it. The ergonomics are a bit iffy, but other than that, I can forgive it for that because it's such a small little knife. And as I said, in use, it didn't bother me a whole lot. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've definitely enjoyed getting this and playing with it. I've been Brian. Have a good one.